Hello, I'm Robin and welcome to Molten Music Technology. Today is a special one. Never done this before. Rather than live streaming and panicking in front of everybody, we've got a relaxed morning/afternoon with Loula Yorke.
Hello. It's very exciting and cool to be here.
It is very exciting. Now, what I'd really like to do is just talk about how I set this up, because it was awesome. I spent all day plugging things in and getting cameras ready, but we're not here to do that. We're here to talk about synths, about modular, about performance. Now, my understanding of you is that you are an artist, musician, synth builder, installation person. You're into visuals, lights, noises, bad sounds, glitches, and all that stuff. And you do it in Suffolk.
I do it in sunny Suffolk. Flung out on the East Coast.
Yeah. I mean, you're almost a local.
Yes, that's why I hit you up. Because
Yes.
I realised I could come hassle you in person because we live pretty close to each other. We are the East Anglia synth massive. at
Yeah,
this
no,
point.
that is very true. I mean, we became aware of each other through Syntheast. Syntheast is this fantastic show happening in March, which you all need to know about. The link is in the thing, I imagine. But when we're first putting Syntheast together, I was talking to the Norwich Arts Centre and to Electronic Sound, and your name came up as we were talking about potential local-ish artists and people we could approach. And then after that meeting, I put out some feelers just to say, hey, we're doing this thing, and is there anybody out there who would be interested in performing? And just like that, you popped up and said, yeah, I'll give it a go, which was perfect because we'd already been thinking about you, and I was already looking you up. And it seemed like an ideal match.
Definitely. Norwich Arts Centre is absolutely brilliant. And I've played there a few times. And they're fab.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you do then to start with. How would you describe yourself?
So I describe myself as someone who plays live, who likes to play synth live. And I'm always trying to find kind of creative ways to do that, essentially. So either I play live doing gigs, or I try and put on shows that include people in the community who might want to also do synthy stuff. And then we'll put on a show together. And part of that will be playing synths live. So it's all kind of like a live arts practice in a way. That's how I think of it.
Yeah, that's interesting, because if you go to Lula's website, if you go to the portfolio part, as I have been, you do all sorts of stuff. It's not just fiddling around with synths. You do workshops with people, installations, you get stuff together and forge that into things with other community groups. You work with disabled or the deaf community. You've done stuff in all sorts of places. What is it that's driven you past just live performance of your own stuff?
That's a really interesting question. I think I'm always a bit wary of when things become too self-referential, or the things are a bit too clubby, or they're a bit too... perhaps your audience is just other people in your sort of same circle. And I always feel like with the arts, we need to kind of be getting out there, basically, to kind of work with people who wouldn't normally get a chance to do that kind of thing, or who wouldn't have thought of it, and just sort of, go and bend the minds of regular folk out there.
How do you make that happen? How do you get a way in?
So often I apply for funding for myself, and so I'll do it that way. So I'll be the originator of the project, or I'll be asked by an organisation to come and be part of their project. So I've worked with Britain Peers Arts down in Snape. I worked with, in fact, I've worked with them a couple of times, so that I'm on their radar now. So they'll often ask me. The Art Station in Saxmundham is a really big community outreach programme. Down in Ipswich, South Street Studios is like really big on community stuff. So I'm sort of on their radar, and they'll have projects that they want to get off the ground, and they'll ask me to come and be a person who'll run a workshop or lead an arts project of some kind. Or I will be the person that will have an idea, and then I'll apply for funding and I'll have to make it happen. So those are my two options.
So are you sort of offering something to education, or offering something to these groups? Is that just a phone call, or how do you present yourself? How does that happen?
Oh God, I don't know. I think people are aware of me. I think people contact me.
So have you been performing for a long period of time?
I think I haven't been performing, probably since about 2018, but I've lived in Suffolk
Okay.
for a long time. So I guess when I did start doing my music practice a bit more publicly, yeah, I suppose I already had links with arts organisations just, from being a local person into the arts. So then, I think it's like happened that way. But I think probably the thing that put me on the map most was Atari Punk Girls. So that was a project that I did with Spill Festival, and I kind of led that one. So I applied for the funding and got that project off the ground myself. I was commissioned by Spill, but then they kind of take a step back. Once you've been commissioned, then you're free to then lead the thing. Great. So I think that was the thing that's put me on the map the most for community, because they can see the level of which I turn out a community show, which is full, massive sound system, laser show. Everyone's just going hammer and tongs. The whole thing's brilliant. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like I'm sort of bringing 1,000% to things in terms of
sounds like it.
I want to turn every community project into a warehouse rave. Basically, that's where I'm at.
Well, it's a good intention, I think. So, Atari Punk Girls, then, what was that? What was that about? What did that bring together?
So that was a synth building project. I built little synths called hex boxes that I designed with Tom Richards, and we all kids built them themselves. So I only worked with girls at that point. And we all built the synths, and then we did a performance in like a deconsecrated church, and it was literally like a warehouse rave. And yeah, it was extremely good fun, and they had a lovely time. We'd just come out of the pandemic, so it was all delayed because it was supposed to happen in 2019. Or even 2020, I'm not sure. Yes, 2020, and the whole thing was delayed. And so by the time I met that group properly, everyone had been through a lot, actually, and so it was a really nice thing to do. We met up weekly, did synth building, and just chatted. We were supposed to be like creating this big show, but actually they just really needed to talk, actually, and it was really, really nice. And that's what I find really lovely about this kind of project, is if you set up a space where people can just collaborate and sit side by side on a little project, they'll just start talking to each other, they'll start making friends, they'll start helping each other, they'll stop asking you, oh, where does this component go? And they'll start asking each other. And that's really nice. That kind of, it's like a really supportive little space that you've created. And I really like doing that, like creating little spaces that people can like be free in and, support each other and stuff. So that was sort of the ethos behind APG. I sort of went into it like thinking, I'll teach all these girls to build synths, and it'll be like this huge feminist thing. And actually in the end, it was just a really nice little after school club, and everyone just had a really nice time, and it was all really gentle and like really supportive, and it was cool.
Nice. Was this breadboarding, or how deep did you go to soldering?
We went to soldering, yeah, of course. Soldering is much easier to do with young people than breadboarding. Really? I have discovered this. I thought, oh goodness, I don't want to teach them, do soldering anymore, because it's like, it feels, whatever, can be a bit stressful. And then, my goodness, breadboarding is 8 million times more stressful. I would do soldering over breadboarding any day of the week.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it's not clear on a breadboard where you're going, what's going on. Whereas on the PCB, there is instructions that I can write out for them to follow that are really clear. And I take photographs of all of the part, the like PCBs, and I don't do it by words. I literally have photos. This goes here, and then we solder it, and so they can really understand that really easily. It's much easier to be more visual with it. Whereas breadboarding, it's like, oh well, you could put it here or there. It doesn't really matter. Oh my god, like that is just too much. Yeah, it's too much.
So I did a load of breadboarding with the Erica Synths EDU. Educational kits, which has been a brilliant thing. I did it sort of over the past year, and the breadboarding has been interesting. I mean, it's a challenge because you're trying to follow these lines, you're trying to visualize where things are going, and you're also working in a tiny space to get these things to happen. It is interesting. So, I mean, do you have a van load of stuff? I mean, how do they?
I have a box of soldering irons in a crate. And decided to cover boxes, just a couple boxes of bits and bobs, really. It's pretty. I mean, when I have to, it's kind of a boot full of stuff by the end, because I'm bringing speakers and I'm bringing light synths and I'm bringing all this stuff. But I do tend to turn up kind of mob hand. I did loads of things. Just set up the laser over here, and we'll just set up the sound system over there. What? Yeah.
Do you build modular? Do you build kits?
I have built bits and bobs, but I'm not the most patient person.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think the last thing that I did build. The last thing I built worked first time. It was the proc drum, the proc hats. Actually,
oh, right, yeah.
Do you know what? That was the last thing I built.
Little red squares.
Yeah,
on
there's
the
the red squares. Yeah. And actually that worked first time, and I felt like, okay, I can do this again. But I think I've had ones. I think it was the mutant clap, where I just couldn't get it go. You know, it was like.
Oh, well, it lulls you into this false sense of security. If you manage to get the first couple of kits to work, then you're just like, oh yeah, this is easy. I don't know what I'm worried about.
Exactly.
But then you're right, you hit a brick wall or something, you just can't get it work. I've got this wonderful large Cosmo oscillator, you know, one of Sam Battle's things, which just makes this horrible noise, and I can't work out why. I mean, it's supposed to make a horrible noise, probably, but it is also supposed to be an oscillator, so I would very much like to fix that at some point. But there comes a point where you've resoldered everything, you think, and where else can you go? Who can help you? There's no one.
There is no one to help us. What will we do? Yeah, I have a similar thing with the mutant claps. Just doesn't matter what I do, it doesn't work, and now it just sits on the shelf, just looking sad, and that's that.
So tell me a bit about your rig. I have it here. I'll take some photos of it, I think.
Okay.
Well, actually, I mean, we're going to have a bit of a jam later, so I will mix in at this point a bit of us jamming or something. You know,
sounds good.
Make it sound like I do post production. So yeah, but tell us about what you like. What do you have in your box? And I love the fact, by the way, that we have identical cases. That's an awesome bit of synergy.
We do, and I think I must tell the viewers at home that how I came across your work was through the double Arturia rack root build.
Yes.
And the fact that I realised that I also wanted my case to close, and you gave some really fantastic advice about patch cables to buy, and I thought, this man gives good content. He makes good content, I thought.
Well, it's always good to feel useful.
It's very useful. Now I can shut the case. So what do I like? The first modules that I had and that I still love so much is the combo of the Ornaments and Crime and the Temps Util.
Really?
Yes.
See, those are evil.
They're my favourite modules.
They are. I struggle with anything that has more than one use.
Yeah.
So I find it fascinating because the O&C it sits there completely blank, you know, staring at you, going, "Go on then, you bastard!" and so yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah. So and I've got this Erica Synth Black sequencer because I thought, no, I'd really like to write. I want to write music and have recall because I do everything improv, everything live. I don't know if I sit back. So I was getting a bit frustrated with the fact that everything I did with improv, I was like, maybe it'd be really easy if I just had a show and I wrote some music. So I bought the Erica Synth Black sequencer, and I've just gone back to using the O&C and the temps again.
Interesting.
And now I just use the Erica Synths for gate lengths, which is just, if you think how big, fancy it is. So yeah, I need to dive back into the Black sequencer again. But that's been my biggest purchase in the last year, and I really thought it was going to change everything, and it turns out my habits are much more
really
ingrained than I'd realised.
Yeah, I mean, because I've gone through a lot of sequences because I tend to be reviewing them, so I have sporadic, concentrated time on them. So the Black sequencer, for instance, is one that I did, and I loved it while I was playing with it, and then I haven't touched it since. But I know that I can go back to it and write a tune. So like you say, if you want a tune, then those sorts of things are great. Like at the moment, I'm messing about with the ASQ1 from Busy Circuits. And that's the same. I've got 2 channels of tune. So I write a tune, but it's not the same as as just pumping in something out of a Turing machine or pumping in something that's just going to get it moving. You know, it's so much more intentional, I find.
Yeah, definitely, because that's what I use the ONC mainly for, is the quad Turings.
Oh,
yeah, so it's got quad.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's got 4 Turing machines in it, and then it's got a quantizer inside the same app. So that's what I mainly use it for. And if I'm not using it for that, I'm using it for Quantumane, which is the quantizing thing. So I'll have my Turing machine. So the way I started making music with Modular was Turing machine plus ONC as the quantizer.
Interesting. Interesting.
And then basically just for space reasons, I haven't got the Turing machine at the moment because I realised there's a quad Turing inside the ONC, and I was like, well, hang on, I don't need to have this because I got this. But it has different functionalities, and it's funny, isn't it, how things that on the surface are exactly the same, actually there'll be some tiny little quirk that won't be the same, and you're like, oh no, I need to have this whole massive module because of this one tiny thing that I'm so used to having, you know. Yeah, because the Turing machine's got like a big knob for probability and lock, whereas the ONC, you got to go in and dial each one individually quickly. Oh, quick, 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 oh, quick, 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 oh, quick, quick, quick.
It is interesting. You know, we're sort of pushed and pulled around by our choices of modules. You know, I don't think there's anything else. There's no other form of music that I'm aware of that operates like that. I mean, you wouldn't. I mean, you can have 10 guitars and play them differently, but they don't really push you into playing anything. They're essentially the same instrument. Whereas with Modular, it's always, every time you add a module, every time you rearrange your case, like I just built this, my case I put together last night or the night before, it's changed what I'm doing, and it's pushed me to do other things, and some of it's right, some of it's wrong. Some of it I'm ignoring. I'm just going to leave that there until next time. It's an amazing, I don't know, it's this whole idea that your instrument is part of that creative process as opposed to just the tool you're using to do the business with.
Absolutely. And I think you're right about setting up your case every time. So every time I have a gig, I'll tend to rejig the case, and I'll do a full day where I won't even turn on bar to see if everything I've put is the right way around and it's powering up properly. I won't even turn it on, and I'll actually do a full day of just sorting out where everything's going to go. So at the moment, this isn't in a good state because I've rejigged a couple of things to bring things here, but it does make such a difference. And the other thing is, every time you get a module, it's like if you were a pianist, you know, you'd be like, oh, I found a new key. This one. You know, that doesn't happen with, and for us, we've got these instruments that completely change every time you put a new module in, because the relationship between everything in the case changes and your patches change. And it's really crazy to have that as a defining sort of first principle of just like, well, the thing will never be the same every time. No. And every time you move a thing, it'll change. And every time you get a new thing, it will change.
That's what keeps us busy and poor, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
That's definitely an element. Yeah. So you've mentioned lasers. So talk to us about your freaking laser beams.
Freaking laser beams. So I got one of the last Cyclopses that were made by LZX Industries about 2 years ago.
LZX, they still do modules, don't they?
They do, they absolutely do. They've upgraded they've turned the Cyclops into something else, and it's a completely different product. But I got the last one, which is just a standalone module, that displays control voltage on an XY axis. Okay. Basically. So you plug one thing into X, one thing into Y, and then you're getting that image created of those two things.
So it's an oscilloscope.
It's an oscilloscope, but it's absolutely. It's an oscilloscope, exactly. But it's really good fun if you put it through a filter. So instead of just putting an oscillator in one and an oscillator in the other and getting your Lysergy figure, which is beautiful, if you instead put a filter that's self-resonating, so it makes a circle, and you start from the principle of a circle, and then you add stuff into the filter. So you make the circle by taking something out of your low pass and something out of your band pass, for example. So you've got the same image then, but at a quarter turn. So you got your 2 minutes. So it's doing that. So then when you put things in to the filter, into the control voltage of the filter, then it starts to make really pretty patterns, like incredibly gorgeous patterns. And the thing that I mainly use to make those patterns with is Benjamin, which does the most stunning stuff.
So what's the Benjamin then?
The Benjamin is 2 Rungler circuits.
Oh,
Can I show you my Benjamin? Shall I just get it out now?
Sure, yeah, if you like.
I'm gonna.
I mean, it's a
that.
familiar name. It's a word that I know.
You won't have seen one of these, Robin.
Okay, it's a word that I know.
One of these. This isn't actually.
Oh wow, we're getting a bit Soma Labs now, aren't we?
Go.
Oh, I never
So
did.
this is actually not a Benjamin, it's a Thongelin, as you can see on there. And if you want to know the story of this amazing synth, then you have to come to Synth East, where we'll be bringing the whole family of these logs. And I'll give you the backstory of this Thongelin, which is very exciting and cool. But it's a little sneak secret for Synth East. But yes, so basically this is what I used to do to make laser stuff with. So I take these out here and put them in the filter, and then take the low pass and the band pass out of the filter, and that goes into the X and Y. And
Flipping Nora.
Really flipping amazing stuff. And if we can find a SCART lead, I can show you.
Yeah, I'll have a rummage, as I say. Ooh, careful now. Yeah, I'll definitely have a rummage and see what I can come up with. Yeah. So what do I know Benjamin from then? I must know that from somewhere.
Let me sit down before I start talking. It's Rob Hordyke, who recently passed away. He was the originator of the Benjamin. He invented the Rungler circuit. I mean, your viewers can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm no expert, but I think he invented the Rungler circuit. And
is it those wooden,
I don't
colourful
think
patch cable things? No, that's something else.
You're thinking of a plum butter.
Am I now?
Yes, you are.
Of course I am.
Yes, you are. You're thinking of plum butter by Peter something, and I'm really sorry I've forgotten his name.
Yeah, maybe.
I feel really embarrassed.
Don't worry about it.
He's called Peter something. No, this is Rob Hordyke. And yeah, so the Runglers are chaos circuits, chaos generators. And so the Benjamin has 2 oscillators, and then it has 2 chaotic circuits that you can feed into the oscillators at your discretion. Once you feed those in, they then have a relationship to each other that you can't control.
Okay.
So it's basically an uncontrollable chaos machine, and it's really brilliant, and it makes the most incredible sounds, and it's totally untamable and beautiful, and yeah, it makes really beautiful visuals as well. So that's that.
Well, I feel my brain is being expanded just sitting here, which is always good. Could do with a bit of that. Could do with a bit of that. Other things you do, I've noticed. I mean, the laser thing, we'll definitely try to have a look at. But you also do video mapping or have done video projections, that sort of thing. Is that software based? Where's that coming from?
Yeah, so I make films. My little films.
Oh.
And then I use brain is stopping Mad Mapper to do the VFX bits on top, and that's fairly new. I mean, I did a bit in Glastonbury years ago, but that wasn't with Mad Mapper. God, that was so long ago. That's probably Resolume actually. But I bought Mad Mapper because it has a plugin called Mad Laser, which means that I can put a webcam or use my computer cam to display images with the laser. So I'm hoping in my next live show that I'm putting in funding for next year, so fingers crossed it happens, it will be partly modular derived laser visuals and computer derived laser visuals. So I've got Mad Laser for that reason.
Well, we don't mind a hybrid.
Exactly. Well, it will be, yeah, because it would just be really cool to flip between the two, and also it means I can render text.
Okay.
So on computer you can write things, and the laser then can display that text.
So the laser is drawing an outline of an image. Is that the idea?
Exactly. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So that's why I ended up with Mad Mapper, because of the Mad Laser extension.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure other products are available.
Probably. Do you carry a smoke machine? Is that something you have to have with you?
Yeah, I don't carry one, but it does look better if they have them. Having said that, nowadays I find that building smoke alarms are so sensitive that I'm actually trying to make visuals that are exciting enough that they don't need a smoke machine necessarily, because it's really, really boring when the fire alarms go off.
Yeah.
It really, really ruins the vibe, and
Yes.
it happens all the time. So yeah, I'm trying to kind of make the lasers so that they don't necessarily have to have smoke, because obviously it looks so much more beautiful with smoke. But yeah, it's just mad. And even if you you have to arrange with the venue to like turn the smoke alarms off, it's like feels a little bit dangerous. Yes. But it's mad because you just think, well, those old clubs and stuff, they just must not have had alarms because they weren't going off.
No, they have to be.
I mean, certainly none of the warehouse raves had alarms, so that was fine. But yeah, it's but proper legit venues do have fire safety systems. They do.
This is true. I love the way that these things sort of fold together. The visual thing, the music thing. It's something. I mean, the visual. It's something that I've done in the past. Is audio visual experiences, but the visual side has really fallen away. I've kind of like got a couple of bits of software that I picked up that I just have not had the time to open. And you're looking for ways of bringing those things together. I love the hardware aspect of that. The laser thing it feels very much like what we're doing with control voltage, with analog stuff. So I really appreciate that, because otherwise I go down this tunnel of software. I mean, I've used things like Chaos and other bits of software in the past to do video loops and projections. But at some point you almost have to think, I have to do one or the other. I can't do all the music and all the visuals. And can you ever find someone would you mind just doing the visuals for me? Because it's never going to be quite what you were after. So having something which then funnels through your modular, I think that could be the way. Maybe that's the way forward. I don't know. I mean, lasers are always the way forward, aren't they?
Lasers are always the way forward. I would say that it can be quite a challenge making something sound good and look good at the same time. So I tend to introduce the concept to the audience that these visuals are derived from this modular system. I make that really obvious, but maybe after 15 minutes, I'm just fading down the feed that's doing the lasers, and I'm moving on. So the audience understands that this, is related to the music, but you haven't got to necessarily be using the exact CV that they're hearing, to make it. Because I think probably a lot of people who do vector synthesis will know this, that the best looking vectors are the most high pitch ones.
Right, yeah.
So you're entering a realm where it's a very acquired taste to listen to that, I think, for a mainstream audience, because I'm ultimately trying to bring my stuff out into perhaps a more mainstream situation. So yeah, I'm not looking for the nerds who are like, yeah, I can stand 20,000.
Yeah. They come with their earplugs ready and
Exactly. Yeah. So so I'm sort of happy to move on. Once I've established that there is a connection, I'm sort of happy to then not worry too much about the fact that what you're hearing is what you're seeing, because that's quite difficult.
That's quite interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess everyone needs a mate who's going to sort out those other things for you in a sensitive enough way to follow exactly what it is that you're doing. So you have some new music out today.
Yes,
I believe. Tell us a bit about that.
Cool. I have some Yuletide music.
Oh, fantastic! Look at that.
Called
Topical,
Yule.
Seasonal,
topical. I decided super last minute to release some stuff because I just released Fluorescence and I had a 2-year hiatus of releasing. And I thought, is it going to be another 2 years? Am I going to get all in my head like I did last time? Or am I just going to not overthink this and just chuck out some live recordings that I've done recently? And so, decided to do that because I've been recording a lot. Because it's how I find I can force myself to perform.
Yes.
Otherwise, I'm noodling. Yeah. And noodling is really, really useful and important part of practice. But so is actually imagining that there's people listening to it and that you need to progress through a theme and get there. So I tend to record everything, or record, if I'm trying to do that sort of practice. So I had this like, SD card full of stuff, and I thought, just don't overthink it. Just go for it, chuck it out. So about 10 days ago, I thought, I'm going to do it. And that's when I hit you up and went, I'm going to do it. I'm going to come and chat to you, and I'm going to tell everybody that I'm releasing this thing. So it's Yule. So yeah, it's 4 tracks that were kind of intentionally a bit slower. And yeah, a bit more meditative, maybe. I don't know. Maybe my other stuff's meditative and slow as well. I don't know. But I was thinking wintry things anyway. It was early December, and I was thinking wintry slow down things.
Well, interesting, because I found with Fluorescence, it started off really urgent. It's like there was something desperate trying to happen in those first few tracks. So it wasn't, I wouldn't say slow and ambient. It was later on. There's quite a mix of things on there, which I thought was really interesting. But those first tracks was just like, this is going to go off somewhere. With the Yule ones, they're beautiful. I listened to those this morning, and that's the half-hour mark. Okay. So that's a good thing to think. Yeah, so in Yule, what really struck me was how the tracks change, because it's always that movement that is the trickiest thing. So when you put together a patch, I can play with a patch for hours. It doesn't really go anywhere, but it's like, this is really good. I don't want to change anything. This is really nice, and that's doing that, and I can turn that on and I can turn that off, and that's fine, and that's okay. But as you say, when you're performing in front of people, it needs to do more than that. It has to somehow, and it's very melodic. It's not structured as such, but it felt like there's this thing happening, and then there's something else, and then you've changed it. It's like, but you've just lost that patch. You had that patch, and now you've gone. And it's like the sense of courage that comes out of that, I think, was just brilliant. That you're moving on to this thing, and it's not all soft and dreamy. There's edge and harshness, and these different interplay stuff going on. I thought it was great. There's probably some playing right now. It is. It's great. I was well chuffed to listen to that this morning. No, it was super.
Thank you very much.
That's on Bandcamp, yeah?
That is on Bandcamp. Bandcamp exclusive, baby.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Loula Yorke, LoulaYorke.bandcamp.com, and all my previous releases are on there.
Great.
So yeah.
Do you? Is this a rude question? Do you have a job? I mean, do you have? Are you at home fiddling? Because I'm at home fiddling.
I'm at home fiddling. Oh, yeah, I used to work. I've had loads of jobs in my life, loads of proper jobs. But I decided 3 years ago to jack in my proper job and do this as my proper job. So it was a real leap. I thought my job is now going to be filling in Arts Council applications and hustling through arts organisations and trying to get music heard, and I just decided that that's going to be my job now. Excellent. So yes, do please support me on Bandcamp, because this is my job. Nice.
I'm not quite there yet. I'm still writing mostly for a living, but I'm in the space, and it affords me the opportunity to play with these things, which is great. But I'm not quite brave enough. Not quite brave. We will see. We'll see how that emerges. So we should probably be bringing this to a close, because we could talk for ages. It's been fascinating talking to you. This has been, because we've not met before, and it's been great getting to know you a little bit. We are getting together. Lula's agreed to come along to Synth East to be part of that. Part of the crazy, still don't know what we're doing, Steve Davis All-Star Modular Patch Off.
That's really exciting.
Which is exciting.
Yes.
And in fact, I'm doing a live stream with Steve on Monday. If I don't know when this is coming out, it might have already been passed. But hopefully, if I can get this video done in time, then Monday the 19th of December, could be Monday 19th December, myself and Steve are getting together. We'll talk about Syntheast and modular stuff in general and the things of the year. So do go and check that out. And hopefully a little bit more of what we're planning to do will emerge, because it will be a conversation where me and Steve will work it out probably during the live stream. But in a nutshell, it is getting together a bunch of modular people and then drawing names out of a hat and jamming together. That's kind of it. The idea is to sort of introduce randomization into the musician choice as well as into your patches and bits and pieces. It's probably going to be mixed. I don't quite know how well that's... Well, who knows? But it'll be fun, and it's an experiment, and it's a great opportunity to do that. As well as Syntheast is putting together manufacturers. You can come and play on the gear. There are performances, other performances going on, and some great performances in the evening. So it's an exciting day. It's in Norwich, March the 4th, and tickets are available now. Do go and check out all the links in all the places. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. But yes,
looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean that was funny because you were straight all over that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I do you want to do this odd thing? Weird thing. Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. I did a little modular thing at Old Jet in like 2018, I think. It didn't really take off, but so yeah, I'm really like wanting to support people who try and make that work, because it is quite an undertaking.
Yeah. Yeah, tell me about it. Still, it'll be upon us before we know it.
Yes, it will.
It'll be very exciting. So, yeah, we'll wind this up now, and then we're probably going to have a sandwich or something and then do some jamming, which is the next thing we're going to try to squeeze in before we have to all go and get the kids, which is what rules our life, really. So, Lulu, thanks ever so much for spending time with us here. That's been brilliant. And, yes, and in the meantime, go and make some tunes. No, which
thumbs?
Yeah. Super.
Cool, nice one, man.
Good.
Awesome.
Ugh.